Hi, this is Tandy Gutierrez, and this is your Pimp Your Mat Live Tip Tuesday chat. So every Tip Tuesday, the last Tuesday of the month, I shoot a custom video on a topic that you guys have said that you're interested in learning about, and I post it here on the fan page, and then you all have an hour that I'll be answering questions live based on what you watched here on this video. If you miss the Tip Tuesday live chat, it's okay, because this video will be on my YouTube channel. You can go back to it as a resource for as long as you like, okay? So today we're talking about coffee. Is it evil? Is it wonderful? Is it a superfood? Should you drink it? Should you not? Okay? So like any other food or drink, we hear a lot about why you should do it because it's amazing and all the research, or why you shouldn't do it because it's awful and all the research. So food is really the only science where you will get so much conflicting information, pros and cons. Why? Because it depends on the body, and bodies are different, and all kinds of wonderful things happen individually when it comes to food and a body and a system. So when they do a lot of research, it depends on what that person was eating and what they were doing and what their medical background is and what their DNA is and what their genetic predisposure is. So there are lots of reasons to do things or not to do things, but what I love to do with M&K is really educate on how you can make your own choices rather than saying always do this, never do that, because it's just not black and white. When it comes to your health and your body, you want to be connected and aware of what's going on, and it's ever evolving. So the things that I used to eat are very different than some of the things that I eat now because of a path of life that has happened in between. But the goal is to always find balance and health and bolstering and wellness in what it is that you're consuming and how you're living when you're taking part of an M&K life. So when it comes to coffee, what are the reasons to drink it, and what's so good about it? What are the benefits? Well, there's actually a lot of medical benefits to it, that it can actually prevent, type 2 diabetes, and Parkinson's disease, and liver disease, and that it can help burn fat and up your metabolism. It can help you focus, and it does help and up the happiness factor because it activates those levels of serotonin. So there's lots of real, research out there that says these are all good things. Tons of antioxidants, there's some B vitamins in there. So it's full of good stuff for you. Okay, what are the reasons you might want to pass on it? What's the bad part of coffee caffeine? Coffee caffeine is actually different than tea caffeine. It's a younger caffeine. It's, harvested sooner. Tea leaves get to age. So the type of caffeine that you get with coffee actually affects your central nervous system a little bit faster and differently, kind of giving you more of the jittery kind of caffeine buzz, rather than a smoother, slower burn caffeine buzz. So that is part of the bad portion to it. It can up your blood pressure. So if that's an issue for you, or that's something you're looking at, you might watch your coffee intake. Also, your kidneys have to filter out stuff, right? Well, there are certain things that are a little bit harder for your kidneys to filter, and coffee caffeine is one of those. So depending on where you're at on that spectrum, or if you feel like you're having issues there, that might be a reason to pass on it. Other things that can be bad with coffee. Caffeine in general can cause sleep disturbances. So if you are somebody who has a hard time falling asleep or wakes up a whole lot in the middle of the night, you might want to pass on the coffee or on caffeine in general. Typically though, if you're not having any past 2 in the afternoon, your system can be okay with that. But again, it's always about how does your system respond to it. Don't listen to anybody else. Do a little bit of trial and error, and do what you find to be right for your system, for your healthiest and best life and experience. What else is bad about coffee? Well, like any other foods, if you're not choosing organic or really knowing where it's sourced from and how it's processed, coffee beans are just bathed in toxins, honestly. Tons of pesticides, depending on the roast, or the flavoring. It can be a lot of artificial chemical flavors in there, and you're drinking all of that whenever you brew it. So it is important to choose a higher quality of coffee, or try to go organic when you can, because it's steeped in all the junk and the toxins and the chemicals we're trying to stay away from in our general foods. Okay, here's a good way to think about coffee versus tea, especially when it comes to caffeine. Coffee is acidic, right? So we talk a lot about alkalinity, or we're starting to talk about it more on M&K, and what is an alkaline versus acidic food, and where is that spectrum, okay? So alkaline foods are like lemons and greens and veggies, and they make your system happy and healthy, and they scrub all the junk out. And acidic things are like more meats, more grains, alcohol and coffee and that kind of stuff, and dairy over here. So I'm all about balance. I don't think one end of the spectrum is better. I think if you can have a really full life and taste a lot of different things with more of this and good quality, less of this, it'd be great. But coffee is really high on the acidity scale. So when you're talking about general health and an alkaline diet, so you want to be balanced or more towards the alkaline, okay? Acidity, a lot of it brews cancer and diseases. It just simply does. And this alkaline stuff keeps you, healthy and vital and issue-free. So coffee, caffeine is over on this end of the spectrum. So you can think of coffee as kind of fire. It can put things, burst into flames and fire. Adds fuel to the fire. Tea caffeine kind of tends to make steam for things. So you can kind of chug along with it. So sometimes if coffee caffeine doesn't work, a tea caffeine can work for you. And I'm a weird one where coffee can work, but some of the tea ones are really much worse for my system. So again, knowing how you react to things and just trial and error is a big one. So coffee is acidic on the alkaline scale. So we want to keep it in balance in a healthy life, right? So that's number one. Just because it's acidic doesn't mean it's terrible. It just means you don't want that to be the bulk of what you're eating and drinking. Why you drink coffee? Because it's amazing and it's the elixir of the gods, right? So you might just choose to drink it because it makes you happy and you like the ritual and the smell of it and the cup, and clearly I'm somebody who loves it. I've also spent a lot of time away from it in order to honor my own system and my healing in my own body, and then been able to reintroduce it again. So why would you drink coffee? Just because you like it. That might be really nice, right? You might also choose to do it for your health and for body balance if you're trying to burn off some damp and muck. So in the season of the fall, when it gets real mucky, and if you've got mold allergies and things kind of, getting really goopy, if you add a little fire, it can burn it off. And this is more of a traditional Chinese medicine kind of take on things, that stuff in balance can be really helpful to your body, but what are you trying to balance and what are you trying to do? So for me, in the summer, cannot drink coffee. It's too much heat. It makes me crazy, and it makes my digestive system bad. But in the fall and the winter, I love it and totally chug along with it. Makes me so happy. Why else would you drink it? Because your system can handle it, because you've got a healthy digestive system, and because you've got a great balance of alkaline foods in your system, and that the acidity of the coffee caffeine is not going to tip you over to the edge into being unhealthy, that you're doing lots of greens, lots of veggies, lots of lemon water to alkalize your system, and then you can have a wonderful cup of coffee, or maybe even 2. Research says up to 6. I can't do that, but those things would be reasons why you could choose it, why it works for you, and to create some of that focus and the serotonin levels. Sometimes if you struggle with some depression, a little bit of coffee really might do you some good, okay? So why would you pass on the coffee? In general, caffeine is a digestive irritant. It makes things difficult to digest, and it kind of adds fuel to the literal fire inside your gut and your belly. So if you've got issues with acid reflux, you've got ulcers of any kind, any autoimmune disease, digestive disorders, I have IBS, celiac, and a thyroidectomy. So there was a period of time where coffee was really disastrous for me. Lots of gas, lots of bloating, lots of acid reflux. It was just too much acid in my system, and my digestive system couldn't handle it. So if you're having those kind of health issues, you really should pass on it. Allow your system time to heal, because when you take out the irritants, it can heal. And then you can see if you can bring it back in later when your system's gotten healthier and more bolstered, like mine's been able to do. So, it's never a not forever kind of thing. You just have to honor where your system's at each point. Other reasons why you'd pass on it. If you're totally relying on the coffee for energy, you need to take a look at it. So if you're looking for it to wake you up in the day and keep that boost going through the day, your poor adrenal glands don't get to do their own job anymore, and you've reached a place where when you put the caffeine in, things sink. If you actually get tired when you drink it, that's a sure sign you need to take a break from it and let your adrenal glands bolster and do their own chugging along in the system. And again, that's something I've had to deal with, and I've helped people through that. And you can totally do it and get past it, but if you're really relying on it, that's not a good sign. Other reasons to pass on coffee. If you're in a high stress situation, either a new job or just life in general is very stressful, you might want to pass on it because coffee can interrupt your hormone levels. It can cause more cortisol to spike, which is one of your stress hormones. And so it just might not be the wisest choice for health and wellness and balance, right? If you tend to pooch in the low belly consistently when you're eating well, and this won't kind of go away, that's typically a hormone imbalance where it pools right there. It's typically cortisol, it's your stress hormone. And you might ditch the coffee in order to get your hormones to balance and get a better baseline for it, and then see how much you can tolerate and put it back in. But again, high stress situations, it's not helping. It's just pumping again more adrenaline. Your poor adrenals are getting taxed. Your hormone levels are getting out of whack. And the coffee is, again, adding fuel to the fire and possible explosion internally. And I don't mean that in a dramatic way, but again, you got to look at why you're choosing things. What else? What kinds to choose when you do drink it, okay? So this is one of the pieces that I love to educate on because people go, what? I never knew that. So when you do choose what you're going to drink and consume or eat, you gotta know why and where it's coming from. So drip coffee is the most acidic of coffees. So if you have issues with acid reflux and that kind of stuff, you do want to keep the acidity levels lower in a body in general to keep it healthy. So a typical 8-ounce cup of drip coffee is going to be anywhere from 95 to 300 milligrams of caffeine. It's a lot. So typically, I pass on that one. I can't drink drip coffee. It destroys my stomach. It's really unpleasant. So here's the interesting piece. Espresso actually has less caffeine per ounce. So when you're looking at ordering coffee and you want to try to take the acidity levels down, espresso is a great way to go. It's approximately 65 milligrams per 1 ounce shot. So I order an Americano. For those of you who know me, it's 2 shots of espresso and water. And it's far less acidic for your stomach because the water spends less time on the bean. So with drip coffee, it kind of sits in it as it goes through and becomes very acidic. With espresso, it kind of shoots through at these high pressure and it's less acid. So less acid, less caffeine, a little bit easier to digest in your stomach. And the last one is decaf. Don't touch it with a 10-foot pole, please. You're paying so much attention to your food and trying to choose more real stuff and perhaps going organic and really reading labels and trying not to put weird chemicals in your body. Don't drink decaf coffee. The chemicals that they have to mess with it in order to pull the caffeine out, so not what you want to be ingesting in your system. So if you're trying to decrease your caffeine intake, go with the espresso, yummier, or just ditch the coffee and head for some gorgeous herbal teas instead. So these are the choices. These are why you would choose it or why you wouldn't choose it, and kind of the ins and outs of it. And after this video, in the post tonight, I'll be posting 3 fun, yummy little coffee specialty drink recipes that will also be on the site later this week. So thank you for joining me for this Tip Tuesday chat on coffee. And if you have any questions, post them here tonight. For the next hour, I'm going to be answering them live. And I know this may have opened a Pandora's box for you all. So shoot away with the questions, and if you missed this hour window, you guys can post and I'll still come back and answer it during the week. See you next time.